Hello and welcome to Pest in Class, expert voices in pest management. Today we're excited to welcome back Kendra Snyder, the co-owner of Quest Termite and Pest in Hellertown, Pennsylvania. We dive into her hands-on and proactive approach to leadership, as well as her coaching style, and how explaining the why to your employees makes all the difference. I'm your host, Amanda Salvatore. Let's get into it. Kendra Snyder, you are the co-owner of Quest Termite and Pest in Hellertown, Pennsylvania, and today we will be talking about how a hands-on and proactive leadership style can elevate a business. Listeners at home, I'm sure you hear the name Kendra Snyder and your ears are perking up because she has been on the podcast before. You were a part of our Ignite 2024 episode with some amazing insights. And now today we get to dive in about your experience in the pest control industry and your business. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Share good information with everybody.
I know we have talked several times, and every time it's a true joy. So I'm really excited to have you here today, and I think our listeners are as well. First and foremost, we always start with an icebreaker here on Pest in Class, and yours has a little bit of your history built into it. Fun fact, Kendra was a bodybuilder and worked in the fitness industry among many other things that she has done in her career. So, how has working in the fitness industry prepare you to build a better business?
Wow, great question. And that's exciting. So I am a fit buff. I'm a gym rat from the time I was a teenager and couldn't get enough of it. Wanted to find a way to get my brain to stop working. So started doing physical movement and then kind of practiced with some supplements and changed my weights and had a great mentor. And through the journey, just said, you know what, I kind of like this. And it requires structure and discipline and all the things that most people will run from. But I was really in a point in my life as a young adult where I just needed to find some way to challenge myself mentally, challenge myself physically. And I found bodybuilding to be something that was unique as a young female. And I was also, a young professional. So through discipline and through all that structure, I think I can carry that into almost any role because it requires both. And it's a lot of fun. And the fitness industry has always been a dynamic, exciting industry. I still am a buff and I still go to my conventions and volunteer at different events because I feel like we don't put enough emphasis on our physical and mental well-being where we really want to make sure people take care of themselves, they can take care of others. And I think that through the fitness industry and moving your body and celebrating what you can do and giving yourself that challenge and getting out of your head when you really just can't stop thinking about work. Fitness, that whole industry has changed my dynamic. It's changed my life. And even as a personal trainer and fitness coach over the years, my goal was always to not just warm someone up and give them a workout, but leave them with a message that hopefully they could take with them. They could practice, they could share with someone, they could spread the word that in this crazy world we live in, someone could find joy and just be inspired by one piece of information.
That's incredible, Kendra.
Yeah.
I love that. And I when you said to clear your mind, I really heard that, and I may need that in my life. So
Call
I
me.
think
I got your
will.
back.
I bet you're a very motivating trainer. I bet you bring so much joy to the process, which I know you do in your day-to-day life in pest control as well. So how about you tell our listeners how you found yourself in this industry?
Wow, great question. So, my husband worked for a big box pest control company for a bunch of years and came to me with this idea and said, I want to be better. I want to make that customer experience better than anyone could expect. I want to, what does he always say? Under promise and over deliver with every expectation, every interaction. I want to educate people. I want to learn more technical knowledge. And my initial thought was, are you crazy? I came from a family business and it's a lot of work and you're never off. But I said, you know what? It's who you are and I have to support this journey. So started the company with him in 2001 and I was part-time at the time and I worked in pharmaceuticals and grew my own profession, if you want to say, climbed the corporate ladder. And eventually about 7 years ago, we decided that, I think I could really make a difference here. And I'm ready to jump out of the corporate environment and work with my husband. And I haven't looked back since. It is a journey.
It
That's all
is.
I'm going to say about that.
It
It's a journey. No, I would do it again, but it's a journey. I think he could do an entire episode on working with a family member. And someone will end up laughing, someone will end up crying. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, we very often talk with people who are going into the family business, who are starting a family business. My hat is off to anybody who wants to do that. I know that I would probably find some pain points and that there would be things to work through. I have to ask, what would be your advice to someone who's saying, yeah, I want to do this with you, and they want to also maintain a healthy marriage?
So, when you think about a business, first of all, my husband and I, before I would even agree to start this company, we did an 8-week course on how to start a company. And that was with a bank, a local bank in the Chamber of Commerce. And so, I think that when you think about owning a company, you think about, I picture the iceberg on the top of the water. It's beautiful and you see success, but then you look underneath and like that business owner is looking from below the water level and you see the disappointment and the sacrifice and the meetings and the finances and all the things that come along with that. So if you're ready for that mental journey, don't ever let it stop you, because I think that you can own your own destiny. And if you've got the right people at your table, it really makes a difference. And that's where I find that my strong point is to find the right people to come to the table. And when you're working with a spouse, it really had to be that conversation saying, okay, here's what I'm going to control and manage, and here's what you're going to control and manage. And when we get close to that line in between, we're going to have a talk so that we don't overstep each other. Is it perfect? No. But has it worked out well? Yes. Where the biggest thing is, having that 1/2 hour where you're not living your business day and night, which we basically do sometimes, but it's seasonal, where we say, okay, we're going to take 1/2 hour on a Friday at 4:30, and we're both going to decompress about the week to say, here's what went right. Here's what went wrong. Here's what we can change. Here's what we can't change. And here's the action items each of us will take to plan. Let's let it go for the weekend or, however much time we have. And then let's hit it on Monday hard. And then the next week, again, I obviously, live with my husband and we both work together, but our schedules often don't collide. So we need to have that grounding time to say, okay, whether it be budgetary discussions or manpower or equipment or supplies or whatever we're going to do, making sure you set aside the time to have those conversations, but then just say, okay, conversation's over. Now you're my husband. Now we're family.
I think
And
that's so
that's,
smart.
yeah, it's challenging and it's not perfect. But I think if you can practice it, and we're very fortunate because we both come from family business and we have a lot of friends in family businesses. So we can have those conversations and encourage other husband, wife, or team businesses to say, okay, you're two brothers. Yes, you're brothers first, but understanding that there's each a responsibility and you own this piece and you're accountable for this piece. But at the end of the day, we're not going to talk about that piece anymore. We can talk about something a little bit more enlightening.
I think
So,
that's great to allocate that time and to really look at the business holistically. I also love that you said, take a look at what we can't change. I think that we get really just like elbows deep into what can we do better? What can we do? What can we do? But also acknowledging some of the things that you may not have control over, you know?
and
And
that's hard.
and being okay with that is
Yeah.
very difficult in practice. So I love that that is also a question that you are bringing up in these conversations. When we've talked previously, we talked about your superpower being your attitude. How has that influenced how you lead your team and run the business?
So, my goal with owning and running a business is to bring value to our customers, to employ people who are like minded, who want to follow our culture and understand what we are driven to do, understand what our company culture looks like, and live and breathe it. And so, I always say that we hire very slow because we really want to make sure that the people on our team are the right people. Has it always been perfect? Again, nothing's perfect, but we really put a lot of energy and time into giving opportunities to people and then finding ways to encourage them and to be good people. But your attitude is everything. If you walk into your office building or your room or wherever, if I come in thinking, oh gosh, glass is already half empty, I don't think I have anything, I have to fill my glass first. And then I can share it with other people. So I can bring my energy into a room and say, okay, I understand this happened or this went right and congratulations, let's celebrate it. Or I can walk into a room and say, okay, we had to take a couple steps back. We had a little bad situation or some negative situation or whatever it is. What are we going to do about it? I can't focus on what happened, but I can focus on a solution. I can focus on changing a behavior. I can focus on coaching you to be the better person. And I can also encourage you that if this is not something you can do, you could tell me, let's talk about it. So I think with an attitude and having a positive attitude, bringing the energy into the building, bringing the energy to all of your employees every day, which is a lot, but I think that sets the tone for the day. It sets the tone for the attitudes of everyone. A smile is contagious. So if I walk into a room and I say, oh, how's everybody doing today? I'm going to get that blank stare. But if I walk into a room and say, happy Monday, happy Tuesday, let's make it a great day. Let's see what we can do to help people today. I feel like I'm already setting them up for some success. And so even if they're having a bad day, you can have a bad day. We all have bad days. But what are you going to do with that day? Who do you want to be today? And so that's very important to me. And I even encourage young adults or people who come into our profession and into the industry, who do you want to be? Not what do you want to be? You could be anything you want, but who? What does your heart tell you to be? How do you want to affect people? How will you affect people by the way they perceive you? And it sounds a little morbid, but are you living your eulogy? What do you want people to think about you, at that end of life? Don't wait till then. Do it now and be that good person and be that person that everyone wants to be around.
You talk about this idea of coaching your employees. Can you give me an example of what that might look like? As a business owner, I can imagine that it's so difficult to manage the operation itself, but then you also having to connect with your employees. Can you give me an example of how that works?
I love to do role play. And I think that scares a lot of people. Suppose I answer wrong. Suppose I say the wrong thing. What are they going to think? Oh gosh, I don't know what I'm talking about. No, it's not that. It's not an intimidating role play. This is everyone's going to learn from this. Let's get everyone into the room with 5 scenarios. How would you respond? So I find that to be a great coaching mechanism where we really can just talk freely. There's no wrong answer per se. And if you say something that I don't want you to say, I will encourage you to say something. I'll give you different words to say. If I'm listening to a phone conversation and I'm just not feeling like it's going the right way, I'll jump in. Hey, do you want me to jump on? Listen to how I'm going to handle this. Listen to my words I'm using. Listen to how we perceive this industry and how the words we use in this industry with different services we perform and how we can handle certain situations. And when it comes to the technicians, that's a more of a technical aspect, but I still can go out in the field and can encourage them to make sure that paperwork is done correctly, that reason why we do things. And I always feel, even in my parenting style, that when you give an individual the reason why you want something to be done a certain way, or not just do it, but I'm asking you to complete this because this is a legal perspective, or this is going to help us in the event if it's a tenant landlord situation, or this is going to help us with an industrial or commercial property so we can help them make changes and we have it all documented. I believe that there is this piece where if you can really explain the why behind it, they're more in tune to say, and I will even encourage them, challenge me. I'm not perfect. If you don't feel like I'm telling you to do the right thing, challenge me. Let's talk about it. This is not a scary thing. I'm not a scary person. We're going to talk about it, and then we're going to come to a solution, and we're going to put it into play as an SOP that everyone across the board understands and knows why we do that. They have questions, bring it to the table, we'll talk about it, and then we'll put it to bed and move on to the next thing.
Incredible. Explaining the why and you bringing this idea of your parenting style. We have a previous episode here on Pesting Class with Ryan England, and he talks about he's amazing. Oh, I love that you know him.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
he's what a gem,
Good
truly.
people.
But anybody who is currently listening to this episode and is enjoying it so far, I encourage you to check out Ryan England's episodes because he does talk about this parenting style and bringing that parenting style to your business. And essentially, how you run your home is very often how you're going to run your business. It's such great advice to really open up and talk to your employees about the why instead of it just being do what I tell you. You're going to be met with resistance. Speaking of resistance, I know you had mentioned that you do these role plays. What do you say to an employee or somebody who just feels really resistant to that?
We get that quite a bit, actually. And it's kind of like, oh, I feel stupid. Well, the idea behind role play is that I am giving you the ammunition and the information to share with clients, prospective clients, coworkers, even in your personal scenarios that you can take back with you. So at the end of the day, I want you to be confident. You need to be confident. You need to be empowered to make decisions on behalf of the company, on behalf of the organization, which I represent, you represent. We're all here together. So at the end of the day, when we're doing that role play, I just want to pull out the scariness and say there's no wrong answer here. We are all going to come together with unified responses so that we can all help each other. There's no one right and one wrong. Nothing's really black and white. So I think having that flexibility to say, this is scary. We're all nervous. There's not one person who's saying, okay, suppose I'm going to be put on the spot and say the wrong thing, or someone's going to pose a question to me that I should know the answer to, and I don't. Will I panic? And there are scenarios I think you can kind of talk your way through and learn, and practicing how you respond to things allows you to get better at it. And you could do it in a safe place, in our office environment or our training room. I'd rather you say those things here, and then I can correct you. So when you're in front of a client, you'll have the confidence and empowerment to say the right thing as we want you to say it.
Yeah, it's okay to make mistakes, especially in this
Mhm.
practice room right here and right now.
Absolutely.
Let's work through it. I think that is
Absolutely.
incredible. So, what are some other examples that you can present to us about this proactive leadership when it comes to taking care of the needs of your employees?
My generation, the challenge is working within different generations. So I don't think there's one company owner out there in almost any industry that can say, wow, this is easy. I think learning dynamic communication styles, learning the different work ethics, the work styles. And if you can get ahead of a lot of the potential obstacles and find solutions to them on the front end, it makes the back end a lot easier. So if I've got an employee who has a scenario where, I've got to be somewhere at a certain time once a week. Okay. So how can we work around that? What is your recommendation? Tell me what you think we should do. How would you want to modify your schedule to meet that request? Or proactively, hey, I notice you've been coming in a little bit late. Would it be better to have a later start time? Is that better for you? I want to find your strengths. I want to find every employee's superpower, and then I want to focus on that, and I want to build it. Not everyone's a salesman. Not everyone likes to do marketing. Not everyone likes to type. Not everyone likes to communicate well or speak on the phone. And those are all practices that we can do, that I can kind of work with someone and say, what do you do well? And how do you thrive? How do you see yourself thriving? How do you see yourself bringing value to the role? And then sometimes you have to take a step back before you just, I could sit and plan the futures of 10 people, and the roadmap's not going to go, the career path's not going to go exactly how I envision it. There's no perfect way. And that path we see, it's got a lot of stop signs and roadblocks and things like that. So I think getting ahead of it and understanding how different generations work and how they physically work, how they work in their mind, how they want to work, and what their strengths are really helps you on the back end to find solutions, whether it be scheduling issues or whatever the scenario is. We can address it. We can walk through it. We can help each other. And there are times when I can't. I have to say, I have to make sure I meet the business need as well. So it's not a perfect scenario. Oh, you want off every blah, blah, blah day, or you want this accommodation. I will do my best to accommodate everyone, especially for performing. Now, if you're not performing, it's another conversation, and we have to understand why. And is it just a roadblock for you personally? Is it not the season of your life where you should be doing this type of work? Can you not handle the schedule? Is it too much of a physical responsibility? Whatever the scenario is, we can coach them. And sometimes it's not the right time in my life to be doing this type of work. Okay. I've had a scenario where I had a great employee. She was just amazing. And she said, I want to go into the medical profession. I really think I would do great in this profession. And she said, but I don't want to leave the company. And I said, listen, I would not be doing you any justice if I don't make you try something that you really in your heart want to try. And she did it and she was excited about it. And now she's back with me. But I encouraged her, if you don't try, you might fail, but you won't know unless you try. Understanding like this industry compared to the medical industry and all the different terms and the coding and everything. She says it's overwhelming and it just doesn't pay the way I want to. And I've got more incentive and opportunity here and I'm appreciated and I'm not just an employee number. And I said, well, that's all compliments to me, but I'm glad you tried. And I'm glad you're back. I feel like I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I said to everybody in a stingy way, you can't leave, we need you. No, we all have to grow in different ways at different speeds and different times in our life. And whatever your season is, I encourage people to try different things.
Kendra, I have to applaud you on the care you're taking with your employees and how you're celebrating them, even if it means that they have to go to another company or if they have to do just what's right for them. I think that operating from that place, you're going to get people who want to come back and appreciate that you appreciate them. So it sounds like the health of your employees and your employee retention and just your listening skills are really elevating the experience, not only for you and your employees, but I'm sure your customers as well are feeling that trickle down effect.
We sure hope so. I mean, we like to put these signs out in the office. I have signs with what are our marketing differentiators? What makes us different from our competitors? And I want you as a client care representative, client team to touch on that. Well, every time you have a touch point with someone or someone questions something and understanding how we do things, why we do things, when we do things. And so I think there's a very key piece in there that even when you're talking to a client, understanding their need and being empathetic. Empathy is something we practice. We have to practice it. I was not always good at being empathetic, but I've learned over time and through personal struggles that empathetic piece is key in understanding that you might not understand what someone else is going through at the time, but just listening and finding solutions. And I'm not going to find every solution, but if I can give you one piece of information and one nugget that you can take with you that might change the way your day is, you're perceiving your day, to me, that's a win. So whether it be an employee and just acknowledging publicly something that they did fantastically, or a client celebrating a new baby or a wedding or whatever we can do, some life event we can celebrate for them, send them a card, send them a gift, just to celebrate and let them acknowledge that we might be someone who comes to your house for a service, but we're also people. We're real people doing real things for other real people. So I like to think that I empower all my employees to be human and kind, but not be taken advantage of. So that's another very sensitive piece, is that we kind of know what our client looks like, who they are. And if you don't fit into that piece, we're not a good fit. So it's not just about us going out there and getting customers and customers and customers. It's really finding key people that we want to partner with to perform our services, to find solutions to their problems, to encourage them to make changes if they need to, behavioral or otherwise, or, whether it's living conditions, and to be empathetic that some people don't have control over some of those things. And so I think that there's those pieces where you're dealing with sensitive topics sometimes, listening and hearing what their concerns are, addressing their concerns, and hopefully asking them at the end, have I answered all your questions? Is there anything else I can help you with that would help you feel comfortable with the process or the service or financial or whatever we can do? We really want to help people, and we want to, whether it be employees or clients, we're really in that industry for that reason.
Amazing. Amazing. I want to pivot now to the business itself. The business has been operating since 2001, and the past 7 years you have come on full time. So, how has the business transformed since you have started your leadership style with this team? And how have you grown?
Oh, I think I scared my husband first year. So, but we're still married, so that's a good sign.
That's good.
I came in, I shook it all up. That's what I did. So he did an amazing job. He could take it so far, I've got an accounting background, I've got a human resources background, and a sales operations background. So those three pieces, my husband basically bowed down and said, whatever you want. I was like, that's the right answer, by the way. We basically took our business model and said, okay, when we wanted to start this business 20 some years ago, here was our business model. Well, let's throw that away because we now have to have a grown-up business model. So what do we want it to look like now? And so when we put that together, I said, well, this is what you're going to go after. Here's what you're going to do. And I really just wanted to get some processes, procedures, employee handbooks, all those HR functions, get it all lined. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone's questions are answered similarly because it's all in writing. And then build on that when we brought on new employees, they kind of understand the whole onboarding process. Here's how we do things. Here's why we do things. So putting all those pieces into play, we grew the company by about 7 or 8 times what it was when I came on board. So we obviously have had significant organic growth. We had to do minimal advertising because by word of mouth and knowing, being so community spirited and community oriented, word of mouth really just spread like wildfire for us. And we've been very blessed and we don't take a day for granted. And I think that's being humble and kind and just learning to listen to your customers, listen to the needs, being involved in the industry, instrumental, putting yourself out there to be uncomfortable so that you can learn from other people. You can learn their mistakes so you don't make them. And then hopefully you mentor someone else so they don't make them. And in that process, building your clientele and building their trust and value that you bring to them, that's really where I wanted to focus. That's where I wanted to be that safe spot, landing spot where I can be out with a client all day. I could be on site. I could be in the office all day, and I'm fine doing that. Wherever I'm needed, I want to be able to be flexible and support whatever aspect of the organization needs it for that specific day. Of course, I have my day job, so it's not as if I spend the day out in the field all day. I don't get to come home and say, wow, my work's going to sit. No, but that's okay because I feel that there's value in being out in the field and being with clients and digging trenches next to technicians saying we are equals. And although, my goal in the coming years is really to work more on my business than in my business and getting the manpower and my leadership team to a point where I can relinquish a lot of my responsibilities, but I still always have my hand in it. And I feel that that's the type of leadership role I've taken and it's the kind I want. It's not for everybody, but at this season in my life, I'm willing to put in the hours and the time. And because I want to be able to feel the rewards, I want to be able to give more opportunity to more people. I want to be able to give more jobs to more people. I want people to feel like they're part of something exciting. So as we grow and we share that with our employees, I like transparency. I'm big on transparency. I'm not going to hide it. And so if something's good, I'm going to celebrate it. If something's not good, I'm going to talk about it. As we grow and develop, obviously we want everyone to feel the value and earn that piece of the pie and have opportunity.
Is there any processes that you have put in place in those 7 years that you're most proud of?
Training manuals and implementation of this amazing software called Field Routes, which has been so exciting. One of the things I get to do is I get phone calls and emails and texts and all this kind of communications from people saying, we want you to use our software and this is the best software and here's why. And so when you can hand a process and procedure over to someone and you've got the support of a software and what you need to get your job done and automate so much of your work, my employees are jumping up and down going, wow, this is a game changer. And I'm like, yeah, I did that. And then I'm like, okay, I didn't really do it, but I'll take credit, but I implemented it. And so when you find something that works for everyone and they're really excited about it, you don't want to stop celebrating. You're just like, okay, let's keep this energy going. Let's keep the spirit. But I think just taking the time to put in the processes and the training manuals and what that looks like and giving people opportunities. How do you make more money? How incentives and really every year talking about like what worked well last year and what we don't want to ever take something away, an opportunity to earn money. So what else can we give them as a means or incentive to do good work, to take care of problems, to handle their clients and to handle phone calls well or make sure paperwork's completed on time, all those pieces, the attention to detail. That's the hardest part. So making sure all that attention is always on every single transaction, every interaction. So that's what I pride myself on and making sure those things happen.
Putting a process in place can be incredibly overwhelming. I can't even imagine coming up with the processes for a handbook. But once they're in place, I am sure it just makes life so much easier and also just consistent. The work is consistent. You can refer to this and be able to get the answers that you need and what works best for you guys.
Absolutely. The expectations, like there's no question there. The answers are there. If it's subject to interpretation, we have a conversation. But it's really been a game changer as far as if I'm not readily available, how do we handle something? And so having those pieces in play and having those anything, whether it be pricing guidelines, whether it be talking points when you're talking to a client, any pieces of information that I can share with a member of my team so that they have resources available to them at their fingertips that's very easily accessible. That's important to me. That way they never feel as if they're alone or can't answer a question. And if they can, I said, just tell them, I don't know that, but we'll find out. Let's find out and we'll get right back to you. Having those pieces, those important documents in play, and they're working active documents, they can be changed, they can be modified. There's nothing, set in stone, but at least it's a talking point that if we have to have a discussion, we know why we're having that discussion.
I know you mentioned field routes before and that we met at Ignite 2024. What is something that you took from the event that you brought back to your team and it created a positive impact?
Oh, wow. I met so many awesome people there. First of all, I would encourage anyone who's using field routes to you have to at least go to one Ignite. I think you'll be addicted once you go. It's an energy you can't describe. It's different from other events I've gone to on a national or state level because you all have one thing in common, the software. And you all have certain goals in mind with your business or the reason why you're going there. I went there to learn. I kind of wanted to understand how the software thought and worked and spoke to so many amazing team members from field routes that took time to answer questions. And there was like about 10 of those, oh yeah, aha moments. That's not scary. Okay, we got this. And I walked away with a lot of information I brought back here. And we implemented some different things right away. And then I love the networking with people who are using the software. And I've been able to promote the software a little bit, which has been exciting just because people have questions saying, hey, I have a scenario. Can you help me out with it? And so I can say, oh, here's how we handle that. Here's how it worked for us. Can you implement that or find a way to implement it with your business? So just sitting next to someone who might have a really critical situation that you're like, oh no, we got an answer for that. We have a solution. Let's work through it. And being able to sit next to them and solve their problem and them solve my problem. It's a two-way thing. Oh, this is how I've handled that scenario. You might want to consider doing X, Y, or Z. But it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, Ignite 2024, that was the first one I had ever been to, and I understand why it's addicting. The community, the energy, the excitement that people have, and just the amount of knowledge that is circulating in all of those rooms is incredible. So, and I know we talked about this a little bit on the episode previous that you were on for Ignite, but within field routes, what do you think is your most utilized feature that you use in the business every day? If someone comes up to you and says, I'm considering field routes, why should I choose this software? What would you say?
I only get one? No. Come on.
Yeah, I know. We only have a few minutes left, but
No.
if you had to,
You got
narrow
till
it
midnight,
down,
right? Okay.
we can hang out.
So one piece that was a game changer is how you schedule. So I think the biggest challenge for most pest control companies is routing efficiency. How do I tighten my route? How do I make it more productive, more stops, whatever that scenario is? And so the one feature I really like is the fact that I can pull up an account and say, okay, give me 5 options where this really should fit based on this criteria. I find that to be extremely useful. And I know my team is always like, oh, wow, this is so much nicer than what we had before. That, and also from a more administrative perspective, I'm going with 2 here. Okay. So from an administrative perspective, when you talk about, especially in our industry in the Northeast, and it's seasonal, And so maybe your winters are, some people only do 3 quarterly maintenance services with residential. Some people do 4, depending on how your models work. But from the financial perspective, we do monthly subscription billing. So that cash flow is more regular in the winter months than it might not be otherwise. And not only that, we really encourage our clients, our residential clients, to take that service in the wintertime. We're not going to go out there in a foot of snow, but we do have the ability to make sure that your home is protected. And so we want to help them understand that. And they tend to not cancel a service if they are on that. They're paying that monthly subscription service. We encourage you to use us. That's what we're here for. So it does help with the cash flow as well. So having that mechanism, and it's easily trackable, it's easy to report on. That has been another really awesome feature that we are really enjoying here.
I'm so glad that you are utilizing this software and that we get to have these types of conversations. You're such a dynamic person. You're such a wonderful personality. You're a lovely human. And I have to say thank you once again for coming on to Pesting Class. Kendra Snyder, you're incredible. Thank you.